Okay, from the Werribee Banner in 1964 through to the groundbreaking and revealing open mic today, Mike Sheehan has been a gun, a trailblazer who carried his unique blend of warmth, knowledge, humour and youth-breaking skill through Newsday, the Hobart Mercury, Inside Football, where he brokered the first of many deals to cover sport for the age over the summer of 73 and 4 and never looked back, the Herald, the Corridors of Power at the VFL AFL, the Sunday Age and the Herald Sun. I should say two things here. Mike always carried his heart on his sleeve as well, and the above was just his work in the print media. Before he paved the way for so many football journalists, and not every football news editor, sports editor I should say, would thank him for this, into the electronic media, Mike initially resisted Gary Fenton's attempts to lure him onto television. Laughable now, but he dreaded being recognised in the supermarket and on the street. Already one of the biggest names in journalism, he finally succumbed to sit on the first of many couches on Talking Footy in 1995, that show becoming the template for so many, and Mike becoming as famous in his own unique way as Lou Richards before him. To single out the most significant of his multiple awards and tributes, and there are Quill Awards amongst them, are his 2 Alf Browns along with 19 Australian Football Media Awards, 2 National News Limited Sports Writing Awards, the fact that the AFL named their media centre in his honour, and his place among the Media Hall of Fame, and also AFL Life membership, very, very rare for a journo. Mike was clearly the first football journalist to say, for himself, but ultimately for all of us, I might not have played the game at the highest level, but my opinion counts as much as anyone who has. And they did. His opinion pieces, news stories, features and columns, all crafted with his signature meticulous care, that one extra phone call, the heads up to a friend he had to criticise, his never waning fascination with his subject. I know I'm going to leave out so many, but front of mind to me was the South Melbourne to Sydney bombshell series of the early 80s, the Simon Goodwin interview revealing the depths of his gambling addiction. That was a Walkley finalist. The brave, no-holds-barred tributes to Jack Hamilton and more brutally, Alan Schwab. The trailblazing work, Mike, you did on concussion many years ago. The great Chris Grant insurance scandal, the devastating open mic with Alan Stoneham, the top 50s, the value-added Sheehan on Mondays, the Ben Cousins on the couch, and all the sparring and the laughs on 3AW football. I cannot quite explain what it was like as a young 22-year-old aspiring sports journalist to sit in the Melbourne Herald's happiest room, the sports department, over a one-week period in the early 80s and watch at close quarters as Mike Sheehan broke 3 or 4 of the biggest sports stories of that year, from one Friday to the next Friday. 2 coach sackings, Tom Hafey Collingwood, Royce Hart Footscray, and also, rightly but sensationally, predicting that $1 million sale of Peter Moore and Kelvin Templeton to Melbourne. On one given day, 4 separate Mike Sheehan stories over 4 editions were the Herald posters. There was an earlier exclusive with World Series cricket boss Kerry Packer, who trusted him, and the historic John Patura story, and some welcome forays over the years into racing. Mike, even in your final weeks as the Herald Sun chief football writer, a position you held for 19 years, you rightly predicted in a page 1 exclusive that Mick Malthouse would never work at a Nathan Buckley coach Collingwood, and then that Mark Neild, in an ill-fated move, would coach Melbourne. Lee Matthews, the greatest player of the 20th century, who went on to coach 4 Flags, and whose first biography you co-authored, even after you bravely wrote that he was finished, said of Mike Sheehan, people trust him. They always trusted him. He had an ability to write his opinions without seeming malicious. He kept your confidence. Your close friend and sounding board, Jeff Slattery, highlighted your unwavering determination to promote, encourage the next generations of journalists. And Mike, that's something you've done for young people outside your own profession. Also, of course, your meticulous attention to detail that went into every story. Unfortunately, for your own peace of mind, that included the next day's follow-up. Unlike most of us more experienced journalists, you would still read every word that you had written in the paper and then fling it against the wall if it had been tampered with in any way. On a personal note, Mike, you were an inspiration to me in my 20s, my mentor and colleague in my 30s, a feared and ferocious rival in my 40s, and always my friend. We've had our moments. The day or the night we were squashed into the back of Rowan Connolly's battered old car, sandwiching a nervous, even shell-shocked and hopeless on deadlines David Williamson, all trying to figure out on that long journey from the MCG back to Spencer Street how to best capture Collingwood's first flag in 32 years. You outperformed Australia's most famous playwright on that occasion. There was our not-so-memorable team attempt to expose the great pie price scandal at the MCG, but I will always appreciate how you let me tag along in those early years to lunches with some of your most trusted contacts. You wrote recently, Mike, against a bloody tough deadline of Robert Flower. I loved Robbie Flower, loved him before I knew him personally, loved him even more when we got to know him. Mike, Michael, Mickey, Wanderer, Precious, Sid, there are so many people in this room who would say exactly the same of you, and so many other sports journos. I know I once told you, rather flippantly, that your true marriage was to the Sherrin. I'm sorry about that, it wasn't true. Lizzie, Eamon, Kate, and Tony, and Will, and Francesca, and Ned are a credit to you. And as much as you love the great game you've covered with such passion, and as much as you've always barracked for the story, it's been your love affair with life and your constant fascination with all of its characters that makes you such a legend. Congratulations.